Hey traders, welcome to Charts and Coffee. Hope everyone's having a great morning. Happy Tuesday to everybody. All right, so we're taking a look at the economic calendar. Yes, everything is Wednesday, right? We're definitely waiting on that countdown to Wednesday's FOMC. Not so much the rate statement because nothing's really expected to happen with the rates. They're expected to stay at 5.5%. But the rate statement and the press conference are going to be interesting because that's going to map to what we could see in either November or December. So that's tomorrow. But what about today? Today could be a little tricky, and I'm going to show you here why. Let me grab my drawing tools. All right, so here's why today could be a little tricky. Now, sometimes when we have very sort of low heat hot zones, like the building permits or even the housing starts, but there's nothing else. You'll notice there's nothing else on the US calendar to speak of. When that happens, these can take on a lot more importance because it's not a choice, it's a lack of options, right? So if we're going to key off anything, sometimes it can be names like building permits, housing starts, different hot zones like that. So that was at 8:30. Luckily, that's in the rearview mirror, and we can take a look on an intraday chart as to what, if anything, really happened at 8:30. And you can see we have, in terms of the hot zone aftermath, we have been heading lower in the aftermath of that hot zone. Not that we were strong and there was an abrupt shift. I would say that the most significant move of the morning thus far has been this area right in here, shortly after 8 a.m. Specifically, I'd say about 8:15. This 8:15 candle right there is what broke the 200. And that's going from the bullish hemisphere to the bearish hemisphere, consistently more red grab candles, and then the acceleration to the downside in the aftermath of those, seemingly insignificant non-starter hot zones. But that's what we have this morning. That's on the S&P. Now, what about things like bonds and the euro? Anything particularly of interest there? Bonds have been heading lower since 8 a.m. All right. The time is less important, more the fact that we're getting red grab candles. And as we head lower on the ZB futures contract, by the way, that's going to play out on TLT. This is a reflection of yields, right? This is yields going higher. So keep that in mind. That's yields going higher. And if that's the case, then equities are not typically going to love that. We have a downtrend we're starting off with on the Dow, downtrend we're starting off with on the Nas, downtrend we're starting off with on the S&P. And the least bearish, although still bearish, is the Russell. So we can definitely see that the Russell's trying, although has not convincingly yet, turned into a bearish trend. Now notice we're going to have a bearish momentum before we have the bearish trend. So the Momo, the top row, which is the Momo, right, is heading lower while the trend is still very much in a neutral or sideways environment. So let's just keep in mind the Russell, which is not in any way weighted like the other three indices. This is mostly what's going on with KRE, so regional banks. We'll see how that plays out here in the Russell. All right, so that's what we've got going on this morning. Oh, one other place we'll take a look at, and that is the euro, the 6E. So if we take a look at the 6E, look, euro by all rights should be stronger in an environment where the U.S. central bank has already arguably gone more neutral to sort of the precursor of going dovish. But it looks like the ECB is not as hawkish at favoring higher rates as maybe was expected between the last meeting and this most recent one last week. And you can see here the euro continues to lose ground against the dollar, which means the dollar is staying strong. Now, does that mean that that's some sort of harbinger for disaster in equities? Oh, gosh, no. The dollar and equities are not a direct correlation necessarily. What the connective thread is when is a dollar usually strong? When is the US dollar or the currency of any country usually strong? It's strong when that country has a hawkish or tightening cycle, meaning favoring higher rates. Stocks don't like higher rates. Currencies do. So it's not that alone the US dollar is somehow going to be the pitfall for equities. It's that the monetary policy that keeps the dollar strong is also the monetary policy that makes it a little tougher for equities to climb. All right. That's the connective thread. All right. As always, gang, this show is about your questions. So let's go ahead and kick it off. Hey there, D. Bolton. Thank you very much. Yes, smash that like button. I do appreciate it. We still have our day trading class. Moving forward, gang, we're going into our third bonus session. The class is recorded. The bonus sessions are recorded. The indicators are still available. You can check it out over at simplertrading.com/clarity. You also get a month or a year, however you want to go, with me in the mastery. And we have been sticking with a lot of day trading in the mastery. Yesterday, weird day, right? Very tricky day. Winner in crude oil, winner in energy, winner small in regional banks, and we took a small paper cut in Coke. So 3 for 4. And that's been pretty much how we've been rolling for the last few months. So if you are looking for that steady, consistent type approach to day trading, definitely come check out what we're doing in the mastery. All right, so let's get to it. What do we have going on to kick off the morning? Can we touch on the Russell? Yeah, so taking a look at that Russell, I would look at this as the least bearish of the 4 averages, but still it looks like it's trying to go bearish. So we'll see what we get here in about 23 minutes. In 23 minutes, if that overall move starts to become more convincingly red trend, right? Red on the lower row of the multi-trend, if that consistently convincingly red, then I'm going to wake up and say, I'm going to wake up to the morning, right? I'm going to wake up to the bell and say, you know what? What I thought between 7 and 9 is very different than what we're thinking after 9:30. There is a hard line in the sand there. And it looks like I'm going to be bearish on the open, gang. So that's, and Russell probably is no exception. The main thing though, and this is what we dive into in the mastery, is ultimately what we want to remember is it's not just about the Russell. It's about the KRE and the Russell. It's not just about the Dow. It's about XLE and XLF and the Dow. It's not just about the NASDAQ. It's what's going on with the XLK, XLC, XLY. So whenever we look at an index, we're actually really looking at a number of sectors and the number of stocks. And as long as we can look at that alignment, index sector stock, as I've taught for many, many, many years, we're going to find where the probability for follow through is best. And that's always where the probabilities for success remain, not the certainties, but certainly the probabilities. All right, D-Dog, question from our Essentials room. Hey there, Mike. I like the short side. All right, let's see what we've got here. So when I look at D-Dog, and I'm not sure which time frame you're looking at, Mike, but if I take a look at the 5 on the left, the 1 hour in the center, and the daily on the right, I mean, the 60 minute, the 1 hour looks to be the most bearish. We are still above the 200. So, Mike, I can't say that I like the short where we are right now. But as far as D-Dog goes, I'd keep an eye on the area right around 91.70, even down to 91.50. I'd look at that one as a potential buy. Intraday, we'll see what we get. And then if you are looking for a short the rip and some sort of short play, I'd say the 1 hour is the way to go, a short-term swing. All right, next up, Mr. Walker asks, how do I interpret double green below the 200? is that a short the rip environment? No, it would not be a short the rip environment. It would just be that the 200 would be overhead resistance. But in a green trend, I have to be a buyer. I have to be a buyer. So anytime we find ourselves below the equator, which is what I like to call that 200, anytime we find ourselves below the 200 and yet in a green trend, and it was probably a brief period of time that was the situation with KRE, right? You can see here KRE on the daily was green, and the 200 was overhead. I still have to be a buyer, acknowledging that the closer and closer and closer I get to the 200 propulsion dots, the fast 8 exponential and the slower 200 exponential, that I know that could be a ceiling. All right. So next up, Angie asks, can I help you understand the meaning behind fair value? The news reports relating to S&P futures and the CAS index, are they key points to pay attention to, like premium discount? Angie, I'll tell you what, straight up, I have long forgotten even what fair value is calculated. If you were to ask me that, I don't even remember anymore because it's the most insignificant thing. Remember that 90% of things on television are for your entertainment, period. 90% of any, and I'm sure they're very well-meaning, earnest people, but they are in the entertainment business. I would no sooner watch ESPN. Right? Who caught the game yesterday? The Browns and the Steelers and the Panthers and the Saints. I was watching the Panthers Saints game on ESPN. I would no sooner watch ESPN to learn how to play a sport than I would watch the likes of any financial news network to learn how to trade or invest. So I have long since forgotten because it's just that meaningless. Don't even give it a second thought. Not at all. Where are we in relation to the previous close is going to be far more important and far more helpful to us as traders. Are there key points to pay attention to? That's it. That's what I'll tell you. Look at the trend to kick off the morning on a short term if you're a day trader. Look at the trend on the daily time frame. Look at where we are in relation to the previous session close. And that is going to help the most by a landslide. Remember, they've got 24 hours to fill in between 8 hours of Shark Tank, right? You know who I'm talking about. And so, right, they've got to keep something going. They've got to keep some kind of information, some kind of entertainment always flowing. It's like the scores at the bottom of ESPN. Doesn't that one channel look a lot like that? That's because that is what they're modeled after. All right, next up, XLE is set to open higher than yesterday, and SMH looks good. Hey there, Penelope. XLE Energy is absolutely going to continue to benefit from the overall strength in crude. And so when I'm looking at the alignment of that index sector stock, I'm looking at the alignment of oil, typically oil futures. We have rolled into November. I don't know that TOS is actually rolled into November, but remember, we're in the November contract. So yes, as long as crude oil moves higher, XLE looks great. Even though XOP, OIH, those all look quite good. So I'm with you. In fact, we had a really good trade on oil and energy stocks yesterday. SMH is a little trickier. When I'm looking at SMH, it's what's going on with NVIDIA, what's going on with Taiwan Semi. I can't say that I've got a great read. I don't care if it's up or down. I can't say that I've got a great read here because Taiwan Semi is trying to turn into a downtrend. And this corner of the market looks like a mess. So I'm going to leave this one alone unless we shorten the time frame and focus on very, very, very small time horizons, because if I'm looking for follow through on a name like SMH, it just seems to be more of Dramamine territory, right? We're going to get seasick in this environment, try to find the horizon and keep from getting nauseous kind of thing, right? All right, Tesla. Can we take a look at Tesla? Mimi, I'm not, I'll tell you this, I'm usually not a huge fan of trading Tesla. I find Tesla is a lot like AMD. Yes, they're heavily weighted in certain sectors, but they tend to want to do their own thing. Yesterday, as the NASDAQ was making higher highs, Tesla was in a downtrend. So I typically don't like stocks that don't track with their sector or index. Tesla is definitely one of them. But maybe that's my own bias, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not going to let my bias override what I see. What I see is going to dictate what I take as a trade. Tesla looks to be opening up in a downtrend, which is just fine with me because at least that's in sync with what's happening at the index level, what's happening at the sector level. Tesla's heavily weighted in consumer discretionary, second after Amazon, and that's also in a downtrend. So as a day trader, I'd look to the short side of that. All right, let's see. Next up from our essentials room, Tom asks, good morning, Tom. I see you're doing the open in the options room tomorrow. Yes, I will be in the options room again tomorrow for the open. Put some day trades in. Last week, by the way, was extremely productive. I am super happy to hear that. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, we did have a couple winners, didn't we? Hey, that's my pleasure and that's my job, to be quite frank. Am I moderating the open in another site or room the rest of the week? Oh, Tom, yes. I mean, so yes, for sure. I'll be in the options room tomorrow for the open. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 days a week, I do the open in the Sector Secrets Mastery. That is a staple in that room. Hey, Bot, if you have the schedule, could you send that through in the Essentials room for Tom there? So yeah, Tom, Bot will share with you the schedule that we have in there. But yeah, every morning we day trade, just as I'm going to do with you all in that. So let me see if I can do that for you. Yeah, the sector schedule in the Essentials room. Thanks, Bot. Yeah, of course. So yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I appreciate it. All right, next up, Tech Trader Joe asks, when I build my watch list, I do not look at overnight volume, but do look at where price trades overall. Does volume play into my watch list? It does, but not, you mentioned the point of control, right? I'm with you. Tech Trader Joe, the way that I like to look at volume, I completely agree. If you're looking at price-based volume, that's the way to go. Price-based volume is ultimately going to be the way in which I understand what the opinion is at a certain price. Now, how is that distinctly different from volume at a certain time or day? I find the latter, time or date-based volume, which is probably the most common, to not be as helpful. I don't care if volume came in at 2:00. I want to know volume came in at $20, right? So I'm with you there. Does it factor into my watch list building though? No, it factors more into the actual trade and the levels, the triggers, whether that be entry or exit, maybe even stop. It's going to factor into the trade in a more meaningful way. And just in case y'all don't see it, this is the schedule in the mastery I was mentioning to Tom. So you can see every morning we day trade. Just after that, we look at watch list building and swing trading. We have our tech session. We have a scalping session. It's a brand new updated calendar, gang. We have our scalping sessions on Thursday for those of you that are learning the bot scalp. Today, this afternoon, we'll have our weekly position portfolio where we continue to build a longer term portfolio, and our macro, and perfect timing because tomorrow's the FOMC. We'll see what the plan is from the Federal Reserve and how we can best take advantage of that. I am really looking forward to, as we go into the end of this quarter, a lot of swings starting to finally get some follow through, finally get some structure. Between the Fed and the end of the quarter, I'm very optimistic about some longer term exposure to supplement a lot of what we're doing in our day trading, which is about 2 to 4 trades every single morning. All right. So what else do we have here? So thanks, Tech Trader Joe. I'm with you on that. All right. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? Are we actually caught up on the questions? Wow, I almost never do that. Well, we are caught up in the questions. So as always, gang, thanks so much for joining me for Charts and Coffee. I will see you all tomorrow, same time, same station. If you're interested in anything that we are doing in the mastery, feel free to head on over to sectorsecrets.com. It takes you right to the simpler trading description of what we're doing in the mastery, or even better, check out what we're doing with the class, which you still have a small but closing window to sign up for, simplertrading.com/clarity. All right, gang, time to go do some day trading. I'll see my futures and mastery folks in just a moment. Be good to each other, gang. I'll talk with you soon.